Arthur Smith is officially out as the Falcons head coach, which means we need to update where Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London should be ranked in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Starting off with Bijan, not much is really going to change. Even with Smith at the helm, he was still a consensus top 2 running back on keep, trade, cut. Now, personally, I think for the RB1 contention, it's Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, and CMC. Now, McCaffrey is the best player in fantasy football right now. But he's 27 years old. He's about to hit that age 28 running back age cliff. So it's hard to put him on the same level as a 21-year-old Bijan Robinson, at least from a Dynasty Fantasy Football perspective. So it really depends on team need for that situation. But if we're looking at the young guys, it's Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Breece Hall. Now, Bijan is my RB1 because coming out of school, he was the perfect draft prospect. And topping that off, he gets amazing draft capital, goes 8th overall. He has a BMI of 30, great hands, a great runner, and obviously he can be that 3-down workhorse bell cow. Arthur Smith screwed him over his rookie year. There's no other way around it. And Tyler Algier, the 5th-round pick, had 28 less carries than Bijan, which, you're like, oh, at least Arthur Smith favored Bijan more than Tyler Algier. That should be a given. There's no way the two should be that close when Smith is, just obviously trying to run a 2-back committee for no reason. Bijan is a much better player than Tyler Algier. I know Algier had a good rookie season, but he's a 5th-round pick, never a great prospect, and clearly we saw that this year as he only had 3.7 yards per carry, and defenses were able to pick up on those flaws that he has, hence why he was a 5th-round pick. Now, Robinson, he didn't have a great fantasy season because he was ranked as a top 3 running back in redraft, but still averaged 14.5 points per game. He was a top 10 running back, and the way people talk about him, you would think he was, one of the biggest busts of all time, but he was the RB9. It's not like he had a bad season, and he did all this in a bottom 7 offense, averaging 18.9 points per game. Now, he gets a much better situation in 2024. We assume so. Now, Arthur Smith is gone. I believe the Falcons are going to get a quarterback, and rumors are the Falcons are looking at Justin Fields. Now, as a Bears fan, I don't think Fields is the best player from a real-life perspective, but he is miles ahead of Desmond Ridder, Tyler Heineke, any of those guys. And if you're going to knock Bijan, you say, oh, Justin Fields is going to take away that rushing production. I really only come to see that it hurts these running backs when you got a guy like Jalen Hurts that is going to vulture those goal line touchdowns. It's still going to happen. Fields is still going to vulture some goal line touchdown, but it's not like the tush push. Every single play, they get down to the 1 or 2 yard line. It's Jalen Hurts, and not a single running back is touching the ball. And it also does help Bijan. It is gonna offset. I think for the most part, it's pretty equal because yes, Justin Fields is going to take some rushing work away, but they're also going to run a lot of read option concepts where if Fields is holding the ball, the defense is forced to key in on Fields as well. And when he does hand it off, Bijan is going to have more time, more space, and more separation to make a play. Also, Fields isn't the best. He doesn't love to throw the ball down the field, every play. He has that ability. I think the potential is there, but he's not beyond checking the ball down. And Bijan Robinson not only can get the ball in the backfield, but he can run real routes as well. So I'm not too concerned about that. If they draft a quarterback, great. Really, I'm expecting a much better situation because now that the Falcons don't have Arthur Smith, there's no possible way they're rolling into 2024 with the same quarterback situation they have right now. And anything has to be better than Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. So let's dive into Kyle Pitts. And Pitts was a player I was extremely high on, had a great rookie season, and then crash landed the next 2 years. He's been dealing with injuries, and Jonnu Smith has just straight up been playing ahead of him, which, I could dive into that. I could give you all the numbers on why Jonnu Smith is obviously much worse than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, the highest drafted tight end of all time, should not be behind Jonnu Smith under any circumstance. I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think I should need to explain myself. But let's, take a time back in the fantasy world where Kyle Pitts was being regarded as the Dynasty tight end 1. Just had a 20-year-old rookie season where he broke the NFL rookie record for receiving yards by tight end since 2000. We're not counting Mike Ditka. I know he is still the official rookie leader, but that was in the 1960s. That does us no good from a fantasy football lens. And he had 1,026 yards, still only had 10.4 points per game because, as we can see there, bad offense, only had 1 touchdown the whole year. That's not something I'm extremely concerned about. Like I said, offense should improve. And, touchdowns are they're a very volatile stat. I will say that if a player doesn't score touchdowns, oftentimes it can mean that they're just not a good player. They're not going to be using that type of rule. But let's look back in college. Had 12 touchdowns during his final season at Florida. Keep in mind, only played in 8 games as well. So it doesn't look like it's a talent issue. Kind of seems more lucky and a scheme issue with how Arthur Smith was treating Kyle Pitts. Now, we look back, 2023. Pitts was tied for the 9th most targets among tight ends, had 90, only had 53 catches. Now, in that situation, you either look and say, he had 90 targets, 53 catches. Either Kyle Pitts is terrible or his quarterback play is terrible. When we look at Kyle Pitts, see the prospect he is. I know he definitely could have been better in some areas, but are we going to bet that Kyle Pitts, who looked pretty good on film, still showed flashes, was great as a rookie, and is the best tight end prospect of all time is the issue? Or are we going to bet that Desmond Ridder, possibly one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last season, not possibly, definitely was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last season, was the reason why the discrepancy between 90 targets, 53 receptions. I think I'm going to go and lean with Ridder was the problem. And now we're going to look at where I have him ranked. He is my tight end 4. I get that might be a little high. Going to have Laporta, Hockenson, and Kincaid ahead of him. But I'm putting Andrews behind him. Andrews is coming off an injury. And Andrews, I just don't know if he's going to be able to sustain that same elite level price tag that he was once at, where he had no competition. Now he has Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham. I know he's older. Rashad Bateman isn't terrible. And it's not like he's the youngest player in the world either. He's 28 years old. Let's not act like that is extremely young. I get it's not super old, especially for a tight end. But Kyle Pitts, I would much rather have him improving, and he is going to be an ascending asset, where Mark Andrews, I think, has already peaked. Pitts at 23. Give me Pitts. Now, Trey McBride, I think he is very close as well. And I just feel like that when he faces more target competition next year, where I assume they'll have Marvin Harrison, Hollywood Brown will hopefully be back and healthy. I think that's going to slightly drop his play. He's a second-round pick. He's a great player. I don't fundamentally think that he's a better football player than Kyle Pitts, and he's also a year older than him. So for that reason, I'm going to have him slightly behind Pitts. But either way you can go, I'm ahead of consensus on Pitts. I believe he is undervalued in the Dynasty community, and I would be buying him right now if you still can. And let's dive into our last player. We have Drake London, who coming out of college, coming out of USC, was the 8th overall pick. Wow, I can't believe that. It seems like everyone was hyping him up until he went to the Falcons. Disappointed, 10.5 points per game. 2023, second year. Oh, yeah, Drake London, it's going to be his year. They still don't have a quarterback. 10.9 points per game. But let's look at the targets. Rookie year, 117 targets, 866 yards, 4 touchdowns. Second year, 69 receptions, 110 targets, 905 yards, 2 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns in 2 years is clearly a problem. Like I said, are we going to bet that the problem is with Drake London, the 8th overall pick, a great prospect? We've watched the film. He's a great talent. Or are we going to bet it's Desmond Ridder and the offense? I'm betting it's Desmond Ridder and the offense. And if you have any common sense, you're going to agree with that statement. He's only 22 years old. Like I said, I like drafting these ascending assets versus the guy that, has already peaked in value. We kind of know what he has, but I don't think it's going to get much better from there. But let's look at, the offense is bad, right? So let's look at the target share. That is what is going to tell you if the player is, bad because they're bad or bad because their offense is bad. 2023, 23.3% target share. We'll look back at 2022. It is the exact same, 23%. 29.4 actually. As a rookie, that is an insane metric. And if we're looking at a player that is getting that high of a target share, there is no other player that is being ranked this low in Dynasty Fantasy Football you're going to find with that high of a target share. That is elite level numbers. I wouldn't love if Justin Fields came in, but I think if they get they draft a quarterback, say, Drake London as that alpha wide receiver is going to eat. If he gets the same target share and actually, not only is he getting the same target share, which is going to turn into fantasy points because the quarterback play is much better. He's turning those targets into receptions, turning those receiving yards into more yards down the field, more opportunities, more touchdowns. But he is just going to be 23 years old next year. Stepping into his third year, that's often a player's prime. He's going to be getting better himself as long as the situation gets better as well. So, love Drake London. I have him as my wide receiver 19. I'm really not sure if that's super low. It's about consensus, but it also is hard to put guys like Michael Pittman absolutely dominated. You have Anthony Richardson coming back next year. Ayuk, Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Addison. There's just a lot of young, exciting wide receiver prospects, and I am projecting Drake London to be a great player. I'm not saying it for a fact, though, because, yes, they still have Kyle Pitts. Maybe Kyle Pitts we don't know what the regime is going to do. Maybe Kyle Pitts just somehow ends up dominating and London's kind of left behind. Maybe they bring in another wide receiver because they don't have any competition at wide receiver right now. Maybe they bring in another wide receiver that kind of splits the difference between that target share. Bijan Robinson cuts into it. Who knows? Anything could go wrong, but I'm saying it's probably not going to. However, still my wide receiver 19 because we have guys that not only should be ascending talents, they're great players, but they've proven what they can do at the NFL level. However, we're looking at Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Nico Collins, Rasheed Rice. I'm still putting him ahead of those players. I think that their situation and their play was great this year, and they were good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're the talent, the prospect, and I don't think they're going to be getting much better as opposed to Drake London, who I believe can actually blossom into a Dynasty Fantasy Football superstar and can be one of the best players in the NFL in a few short years. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are happy Arthur Smith is gone, please crush that like button. If you want to see more Dynasty content, we're going to be bringing at you all offseason. Click the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video or want to see more Dynasty content. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.